Hello, Muslim friends of the world. Los Angeles was enjoying a peaceful night when disaster suddenly struck. The once dark sky adorned with stars turned bright red from uncontrollable flames. A wildfire driven by the Santa Ana winds rapidly spread into residential areas, causing waves of panic. Fire truck sirens wailed and screams echoed everywhere. Amid the chaos, a small mosque named Masjid al-Hidayah stood quietly on the edge of a residential area. The mosque was often quiet, attended only by a handful of devoted worshippers. But that night was different. Ahmad, a 27-year-old muezzin, was reciting prayers after the Isha prayer when he noticed something strange. The air grew hotter, and the smell of smoke began to seep into the mosque. "Fire! A wildfire!" yelled a man running past the mosque. Ahmad and the other worshippers quickly went outside and were met with a horrifying sight. Huge flames were consuming several houses in the distance, and the wind was rapidly driving the fire toward the mosque. Amid the chaos, Ahmad kept his composure. "We must remain calm," he said, his voice firm yet gentle. He asked the worshippers to return inside the mosque while he tried to assess the situation. However, within minutes, the mosque began to fill with panicked people, including non-Muslims. "Can we take shelter here?" asked an elderly woman desperately, clutching the hand of her terrified grandchild. "Of course, everyone is welcome," Ahmad replied without hesitation. He knew that this mosque was not just a place of worship, but also a sanctuary for anyone in need of refuge. The wind grew stronger, causing the fire to move faster than expected. Ahmad looked toward the mosque's Qibla, thinking hard. The mosque had no advanced safety systems, just a simple structure with old stone walls. But there was one thing he could do: bring calm in the midst of panic. As the tension rose and people began to cry, Ahmad stood in front of the mosque's microphone. "We will be safe," he said, trying to reassure them. But in his heart, he knew time was running out. He bowed his head, took a deep breath, and decided to do something he had never imagined doing in such a dire situation. The sound of the adhan began to echo softly, cutting through the roaring winds and the crackling flames in the distance. The tense night fell silent for a moment as Ahmad's adhan echoed through the air. Outside the mosque, the flames continued to creep ever closer, accompanied by winds carrying dust and ash. Yet the sound of the adhan brought something different, a sense of calm amid the chaos. "Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar!" The people taking refuge inside the mosque began to quiet down. Some who had been panicked earlier now leaned against the walls, looking at Ahmad with hope in their eyes. Among them was an elderly, non-Muslim man trembling as he hugged his small dog. "What is he doing?" he asked a young volunteer. "He's calling us to pray." "This is the adhan, the call to Allah," the young man replied with a faint smile. Ahmad's adhan continued to resonate, emerging from the mosque's speakers, overpowering the deafening roar of the fire. Outside, some firemen passing by even paused for a moment. One of them, a woman named Carla, later said she felt something strange when she heard the call. "I don't know what it was, but I felt peaceful, even though I knew I was in the hell of this world," she would later say in an interview. When Ahmad finished the adhan, he looked at the people around him. The faces that were once filled with fear now began to show signs of hope, even as the fire drew nearer. "My brothers and sisters," Ahmad began, his voice firm yet gentle, "the fire may be all around us, but Allah is with us. We must unite and help one another. No matter our faith, here we are, one family." His words seemed to spark a new energy. Some volunteers from the Muslim community quickly moved into action. They grabbed buckets to fill with water from the mosque's small tank, trying to wet the outer walls to slow the advancing flames. Others handed out blankets and masks they found in the mosque's storage. However, the situation grew more critical. The fire was now clearly visible from the mosque's windows. The air temperature rose, and some people started coughing from the smoke that had crept inside. "Ahmad, what should we do? The fire is too close!" a young man cried. Ahmad thought quickly. He decided to move everyone to the innermost part of the mosque, the farthest from the windows and doors. He asked everyone to stay calm and continue praying. In the midst of the tension, a small child began to cry. His mother tried to calm him, but his sobs made everyone feel even more afraid. Ahmad approached the child, gently patting his head and said, "Don't be afraid, little one. We will be safe. Allah is protecting us." Suddenly, one of the volunteers shouted from outside, "The fire trucks have arrived. They're starting to put out the fire." Everyone inside the mosque let out a small cheer, though the situation was still far from safe. But Ahmad knew the battle wasn't over. He decided to do something that would again surprise everyone. He stepped out of the mosque into the yard, stood beneath the sky glowing red from the flames, and once more began to call the adhan, louder than before. The sound cut through the night, piercing the smoke and heat, bringing a new sense of hope to anyone who heard it. A fireman approaching the mosque area even paused for a moment, staring at Ahmad in awe. "This man is not afraid," he murmured. That adhan seemed to become a symbol of unwavering strength and faith, even in the face of any disaster. And that night, for many, Ahmad's adhan was not just a call to worship, but a call to survive. When Ahmad finished the second adhan, something unexpected happened. The wind, which had been pushing the flames ever closer, suddenly changed direction. The fire that had been threatening the mosque began to retreat, as if driven away by an unseen force. "The wind changed," shouted one of the firemen, his face filled with disbelief. The flames that had almost reached the mosque's walls now turned away, giving the fire crews more time to gain control of the situation. Inside the mosque, the atmosphere shifted from fear to relief. People began to cry, not out of despair, but from overwhelming gratitude. Some of them, including non-Muslim residents, joined in a prayer led by Ahmad. The sounds of takbir and prayer filled the room, transcending differences in religion and belief. As dawn began to break, the fire crews finally managed to extinguish the flames completely. However, the sight around the mosque left many in awe. The buildings surrounding it had been reduced to rubble, but Masjid al-Hidayah stood strong, with only a few black marks on its walls. "How is this possible?" whispered Carla, the firewoman who had felt something special about the place from the start. One of the mosque's volunteers, an elderly man named Pak Usman, answered with teary eyes. "Allah protects his house and all who seek refuge within it." News of the miracle at Masjid al-Hidayah quickly spread throughout the city. Local media covered the story, highlighting Ahmad and the Muslim community who had opened their mosque's doors to anyone, regardless of background. People who had not known much about the mosque before now came to pay their respects and express their gratitude. One of the non-Muslim survivors, a woman named Rachel, spoke to reporters. "I came to this mosque only to seek shelter, but I found more than that. I found hope, courage, and love that transcends religion." Ahmad, who had become the focal point of attention, remained humble. "This is not about me," he told the reporters. "It's about how, as humans, we support one another in times of difficulty. And for me, the adhan is a call to unite, to remember that there is a greater power than any of us." Masjid al-Hidayah, which had once been known only to a small community, had now become a symbol of hope and courage in Los Angeles. People from various faiths came to visit, bringing flowers, food, or simply to pray in silence. A few weeks later, a renowned architect, moved by the story, offered to repair the mosque for free, making it stronger and more beautiful without changing its essence of simplicity. And on a quiet night, Ahmad stood once again in the mosque's yard, gazing at the sky now filled with stars. He remembered that night, his adhan defying the fire, and how Allah had shown his power in the darkest of times. "Allahu Akbar," he whispered. "Truly, Allah is the greatest.